That does not take away from the fact that even us confident ones need a compliment every now and again. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Healing Conversations and Unapologetic Transitions. If this is your first time here, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Jonte Gibson Bryan. I am a life coach, an author, speaker, minister, health and wellness advocate, as well as a mental health advocate and female empowerer at my core. I actually would say that female empowerment is written on my DNA. It's not just something that I do, it is very much a part of who I am. So, thank you for joining me. I have created this channel because I myself have learned the power of speaking my own truth instead of allowing people to tell my stories for me, because no one can tell them the way I do. No one has lived my experiences but me. Thus, they don't know what I felt in those moments. So I'm healing out loud. I am on a healing journey, which will probably last the rest of my life. And I invite you to join me to heal unapologetically. For that, you need no one's approval, just your own. So I encourage you to give yourself permission to heal. Give yourself permission to be big and bold and confident. Give yourself permission to transition unapologetically. And I just mentioned the word that I came on today to discuss, and that word is confidence. There is one thing that I tell my children often, that confidence is not the absence of humility. I think most times people have caused themselves to think that if you have confidence, then you lack humility. But I'm here to tell you, in my experience, that is a lie. People see this version of Janet, who has existed to some degree for the better part of the last 9 or 10 years. However, there has still been remnants of my past, remnants of trauma, remnants of a lack of self-esteem, remnants of so many things. My believing the lies that I've been told most of my life about myself, rejection, so many things. Those remnants have still been there, and I'm still working my way through them. I often tell people that there are two extremes that I've had to work my way through, and I'm working my way through. One extreme is the Janet of old, who was determined to prove to people that she wasn't as bad as she thought she was. Yes, I done a lot of things. I lived in a state of shame. I've said it in other videos how promiscuity affected my life. I've spoken openly about abuse and molestation. I've spoken about my porn addiction, so many different things, and how obesity plagued my life, and the list can go on. So the former Janet was this person who lacked any esteem whatsoever. And I was dead set and determined to prove to people I wasn't as bad as they thought I was. Because at my core, my heart has been the same. I've always been this soft-hearted, sensitive person who cared way too much about what people thought. So I spent a great deal of time trying to prove to them that I wasn't this dummy. Yes, I was a high school dropout. Yes, I had my first child at 15. Yes, I lived in the projects. I was on government assistance, food stamps, and Medicaid, if, to be exact. There were so many things, but I wanted them to know that, contrary to what they may have assumed about me, there was much more depth to me. And then I dared to ask God, who do you say I am, God? And allow me to see me the way you see me. And that is what he did. So now we approach this new situation, this new form of people pleasing, if I'm being honest. This new part of me that has been dead set in convincing people that my confidence It's not a slight on them. It is not arrogance. It is not because I think I'm better than anyone or any of those things. It is simply what God has written on my heart, and it has manifested outwardly. He has done a new thing in me. We are called new creatures. We are supposed to be. We should not look the same. We should not act the same once we choose to allow God in. And that's who and what I am. So now I'm this big, bold person, this confident woman who walks around with her head held high, the same sensitive soul who sometimes cares way too much, who has spent a great deal of time trying to get people to understand that, yeah, I might take a lot of pictures because there was a time that I took none. Yes, if you see me, especially on a Sunday, more than likely I'm going to have on a dress and some heels. I love to dress up, and I should put it out there. Even when you see me with those things on, you can bet they were at a discounted rate. Not that I couldn't afford or I can't afford anything, but there's a thrill that I get when I purchase these things at very low prices and they don't look like it. You know, the thing that I've said to people most times is the glow comes from the inside. I make those outfits look good. Whether I pay $5,000 for them, $500, or I go to the Goodwill as I regularly do, and then I purchase those dresses for $5.35. I am the glow that they see. It is not what I'm wearing. What I wear does not define me by any stretch of the imagination. And yet, I have experienced this level of rejection that I did not expect. I have had to accept that, unfortunately, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. The thing that I've learned is that even though people rejected me for the way I was, it was easier to accept me because they were the ones who were able to define my identity. And as long as I fit into their itty bitty box, it was okay. But the moment I started to speak well of myself and I started to walk in my God given authority, there has been a problem. And there is a problem most times. I am very analytical, very observant. I can see the eyes looking me up and down. I don't know what they're thinking. And maybe it's just that rejection still coming out of me. I expect to be rejected when it comes to women in particular because, truth be told, women have come against me a lot. A lot. And it's a fight of mine because, as someone who is determined to empower women, it's heartbreaking to have to endure a lot of the stinkiness that I sometimes have to endure. But I would like to put this out there in this season of my life. I would say for maybe the last 2 years or so, God has sent some amazing women in my life who accept me for who I am, who really have gotten an opportunity to know me at my core, who love me. And then there are some who have been along the ride, even at my lowest, who believed in the dreams that I had even before my life represented anything that I was communicating, anything that I was speaking, anything that I was declaring by faith. They believed in me. So to those women, I thank you. Words alone could never, ever, ever repay you. There have been so many women who have come through my life. I have been able to model myself after them in so many ways. But ultimately, it is my desire to be who I am, raw and uncut, funny and passionate. If you ever have the chance to have a conversation with me, you'll quickly know I'll say something real deep and something real silly in a span of moments. That's just my personality. I am who I am. 100 proof liquor, no chaser, as I often say. Let me get into this video a little more. I believe there is this misconception that women in particular, or people who have confidence, people who walk around not wearing their brokenness on their face, on their bodies. They pull themselves together. They care about the way they look, that they have no insecurities. I am a regular at the gym, and yet I will let any and everyone who's willing to hear that I can bet 100% of the people who work out have some type of insecurity. I am not saying they are insecure, but we are all working on something. And yet, I think there's this thing where if you work on yourself, if you love yourself out loud, then surely you don't need a compliment every now and again. I'm very, very big on complimenting. It is nothing for me to walk up to another woman and say, "Girl, you are fly." I have this philosophy: if it's edifying and you see it, say it. There is no way that I can look at a woman, think to myself, "Oh, she's pretty," and just hold it inside, and it builds me. Actually, I think that is a breeding ground for jealousy to take root and so many other things. So if I see a woman and I think to myself, "Oh, she's pretty," I will literally chase her down to let her know that that's just who I am. And I'm not threatened by nobody. I am who I am. Lecrae has this verse in one of his songs, and it says, "I failed at being you, but I'm winning at being me. I'm winning at being free. There's no competition but me." And that's my story. I tried to do it every other woman's way. I even remember being in church and hearing my former first lady preach and think to myself, "Wow, I wish I could preach like that. I'll never be able to do what she does or anybody else. And they will not be able to do what I do." That's not what I'm looking for. My desire is to draw the best out of every single person that I interact with, to make them feel seen. As a nonprofit founder, there are things that I stand on. I believe more than money, people need to be seen. They want to know that. Do you see me? They want to know, do you see me? Do you respect me? And do you love me? Because, truth be told, if it's just about the money, and if money equates to fulfillment, why are there so many rich celebrities who take their own life? I would argue that money is not enough. It takes more. So back to the confidence thing. When it comes to myself, I have fought like hell to love myself. It's taken a really, really long time. I'm 39 now. And I would argue that from at least the age of 8 or 10 until I was 30, I lacked self-love in every sense of the word. Yes, by 30, I had a husband, and I thought that he would carry the weight of everything that I'd been through and that he would love the hell out of me. But he didn't. I became more insecure. I had children. I have children. I am a mother of 6. And yet, they don't fulfill me. They are a wonderful part of my life. I pray for them. I pray that God allows them to live very long, full lives, that there is no premature death in my family, but they don't fulfill me. I've made it known to them on many occasions that I desire for them to live up to the greatest of their potentials. Yes, to be wealthy if that's what your heart desires, but not for me, because my desire is to have my own wealth. I'm not waiting for them or looking forward to them or for them to be successful so I can be successful. Nah, there's so much more in your girl than that. I desire so much more for myself than that. They know that I have dreams, goals, aspirations, wishes, that have absolutely nothing to do with a wife or mother. I'm a late starter. For much of my marriage, I have been a homemaker, a stay-at-home mom. Now, I've also been able to simultaneously work my nonprofit amongst other things, but this is the first time that I'm really, really, really believing in myself enough to go after my dreams in the way that I am, which is why I started this YouTube channel. My declaration for 2024 is position and posture. I want to make sure that I position and posture myself in a way that God can really use me how He sees fit. And I see His hand on my life. And He directs me when I sit down to make these videos. As a creative, as a writer, even my written word. I am a girl who was raised by an illiterate mother. My mom couldn't read. And yet, I read some of my art, some of my work, and I think to myself, girl, you are the truth when it comes to the written word. I'm the truth anyways, and I stand on that. I've looked in the mirror. I've spent a great deal of time affirming the greatness in myself. But again, that does not take away from the fact that even us confident ones need a compliment every now and again. I see it all the time. The looks that I get when I go up to women and I compliment them. And us black women are the worst. I wouldn't argue, or I wouldn't say that it's jealousy or anything, but for whatever reason, we are not used to compliments of each other. But I see you, black woman. I see you, black girl, brown skinned girl. I see you. You're beautiful. You're wonderful. You're intellectual. You're gifted. You're crafty. You're stunning. Your heart is pure. And I stand on that unapologetically. You're healing. We're going to heal. It has been my desire. I realize that I am only one woman, so I can't heal us all. The trauma is too wide and too deep. But if I can set one fire, that one fire will start another fire. If I can light one candle, that one candle could light many other candles. That's my desire as a black woman, as a woman, as a female empowerer, to empower as many women as I can through my own story, through the fact that I didn't always feel the way that I feel right now about myself. Yes, I know how to get in the mirror and say to myself, you look amazing. And yet that doesn't take away from the fact that I still desire compliments from my husband. I still want to hear from another individual, another woman, you are pretty. Most often, I say to them, you are pretty, girl. You are beautiful. You are stunning. And I don't get anything back. Not because they may not believe it. Maybe they don't. I don't know. That's not my business. That's not my problem. And I don't want anyone to say anything that is not true. If that's not what they believe, then that's not what they believe. However, I think I'm pretty fabulous, if I may say so myself. But there's this thing, like I said before, if you have confidence, if you are big and bold, that you don't need the compliment. So I think more times than not, it's because I am the complimenter. Maybe it isn't believed that their compliment would be significant in my life. And yet I am telling you that it would. I'll leave you with this and close. So as a little girl, there are two things. I've always been a very busty young lady. So I heard many times, you got big old titties but no behind. So I became very self-conscious of that. And in time, I became a butt watcher. That caused me to believe on many occasions, am I gay? I don't have a desire in this world to be with a woman. Walking around with such a thing in my mind, I started to believe that. until I began to hear other women. Believe it or not, there are a lot of us who walk around comparing our bodies to other women, butt watching, breast watching, whatever the case may be. And we think to ourselves, one, what's wrong with me? And two, am I gay? No, you're not. I wasn't. Like I said, I have no desire to be with another woman. None. But I compared myself with my confident self. It's still a struggle. And then also, I have a gap, if you can see it. I've always had this gap. But when I was younger, it was something that I was terribly ashamed of. If we were having a conversation, I would look down and talk to you. Or I would speak and laugh like this. Of course, it probably drew more attention to my mouth. That insecurity of mine became blatantly obvious by me thinking I was hiding. But I thought I was hiding. So those are two things I've struggled my way through. So like I said, when you see me, not just me, when you see any other woman and you think to yourself, she's pretty, maybe, just maybe, your word of affirmation, of validation is the thing that she needs. Because contrary to what you may believe, she may not feel that way about herself. Some of the most beautiful women in my life are some of the most insecure women in my life. And I know this because we've had the conversation. Would you know it? Would you believe it? If you met them, if you saw them? Nope. You wouldn't. But it is a fact. So I challenge you today. One, ask God, who does he say you are? And to allow you to see you the way he sees you. Once he does, believe him. And then two, let's let go of this comparing thing. You really have no clue what the other person is going through. Because confidence does not mean you lack humility. And I would also argue that this humility that we've been taught, this lack of having a personality, this lack of having a voice, is false humility. The Bible tells us that God searches the heart. He looks at the heart. And even though your mouth, your posture, it may communicate this meekness that we're taught we should have, that doesn't mean that's what's in your heart. So spend some time loving on yourself today and loving on everyone else or somebody else. Spend some time loving on somebody else today. Bye-bye.